Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? What's going on? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back. Yes, I am. This is Wednesday, November 27th, 2019, the day before Thanksgiving, the day before you all put on a few extra pounds because y'all gonna eat yourself out of house and home. And even if you ain't eating at home, you're going to go to somebody else's home and try to eat them out of house and home. You know how y'all do. You know how y'all do. And I'm going to do it too. So that's we, I guess. But what's good, everybody? I'm out here to have a little late night talk. For anybody that's up and game for some talk. That's all, you know. It's an opportunity for me to put in a little more time with the YouTube family, you know. This is the STORMYBMAN late night chat. Thanksgiving edition, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So we got plenty to be thankful for. So if you're out there and you're listening, please smash the like button. Smash the like button for STORMYBMAN. And we can talk a little bit. I want to acknowledge some people who have rolled into the chat. We got Mark Wunderlich out there. He says, salute STORMYBMAN. Tyrone Smith is out there. What's going on with you, Tyrone? Thanks for having me on your show, bro. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens is out there, the man who's working hard out here. I was listening to you guys on that Thursday evening combo show you did. It was some good stuff. Touched on some very nice topics. I might even come in behind you and talk on a couple of those issues myself. But this is basically just another opportunity for me to get a stream in and talk to some people out here. And get my practice in. You know, STORMYBMAN is trying to get better and better at this. And the more you do it, the more you can try to make better, as long as you can keep earnest effort and have decent subject. So that's what I'm on, you know, just to let you know, that's what I'm on. But I appreciate everybody that's out there listening. Appreciate y'all smashing the like button as you join me for this. I wanted to touch on a couple of things. And first of all, we are still celebrating the momentous event, which it was the heavyweight championship fight between Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder and Luis Ortiz. The rematch, part 2. The two men gave a solid effort. Unfortunately, someone had to lose. And Luis Ortiz, though he was stopped by Wilder in the the 7th round, he gave a good effort. He proved that he is the second best heavyweight in the world. Even though we have another champion that will be coming up to defend the unified titles, that goes without saying that the two best heavyweights in the world got it on this past Saturday. And the number 1 heavyweight in the world prevailed again. That's Deontay Wilder. With all due respect to people you may like, people you may support, people you may feel have a way toward that position in the sport, not at this time. Deontay Wilder is head and shoulders above everyone else, and he is proven to be quite a tall order, no pun intended, for any fighter in the heavyweight division. Come one, come all, they will fall. Yes, sir. Andrew Charles is out there. He says, good evening, Stormy B in chat. Salute. Salute to you, Andrew Charles. As I look at this fight, I've had the fortune of being on the Smoke City Mobcast. Shout out to Junior the Truth and all the brothers that participated on the panel this evening. I had a chance to make comments, my thoughts about the fight. And I've already made my comments here on my channel. But one of the things that I recall during my conversation there on Smoke City was I am now totally convinced that our champion at heavyweight, Deontay Wilder, is a much more well-rounded fighter than he has been credited. This fight with Ortiz showed a maturity in Wilder, or a maturing, which is not a ceased effort, as a maturing is a continuous path. He's showing boxing IQ now, along with patience, along with ring generalship, and along with the efforts of being a fighter that is complete. I can explain what I'm saying by saying that the knockout of Ortiz in this rematch was not by happen chance. It was set up. But part of that process of setting everything up, Deontay showed something else. He showed moxie. Being able to withstand a good shot from a formidable foe. Luis Ortiz can punch, okay? And he punches from the southpaw position. He was trying to knock Deontay out. He was in pursuit of going after the champion, and the champion was looking to be very economical with his punches, but also steering Ortiz into what later became the knockout shot by throwing more lefts, hooks, and jabs than right hands. The left hooks in particular were effective because Deontay has that 83-inch reach. He was able to catch Ortiz on the outside at a distance that Ortiz couldn't even land the jab. Whether it was a grazing shot to the head, a solid shot to the body, the hooks were very effective in making Ortiz move in a direction he wasn't comfortable moving, but he had to do so to minimize the power punches that were coming from that side. Deontay being able to take some shots, not too many in succession, but singularly, he proved he was up to the task. No more of catching punches from Ruiz off guard or walking into something. He veritable walked Ortiz into something. Ortiz walked right into that right hand after thinking he had Deontay on the ropes and thought that that would be where his home cooking was. And even earlier in the fight, I was noticing right away that part of Ortiz's plan was to open up against Deontay when he got near the ropes. Not on the ropes, because Deontay is not a guy that really languishes on the ropes, but when he got him within a certain distance of the ropes, Ortiz looked to open up. And Deontay picked up on that very quickly as well. So even in the moments when you saw him banging his chest, yelling at Ortiz, come on, bring it, whatever, that was all a ploy. to get him off of his square, because what Ortiz was supposed to do was to have Deontay come after him so he could get a chance to counter, fight on the inside, and be effective with his aggression in that manner. Deontay flipped the tables on him totally. That's boxing IQ, people. He knows what he's doing in the ring. He knows his whereabouts in the ring. And he is showing that with each outing, he's adding to his repertoire, his toolbox, so to speak, as people say now. The right hand that was the ending shot was about one of the straightest right hands I've ever seen him throw. And even high on the forehead with such devastating effect. It lets you know just how tenacious and awesome a puncher the champion is. So, salute to the champ for defending his title a 10th time, a record 10th time for him, allowing him to join a special class of champions from yesteryear. It's not easy to defend your title as a heavyweight. And it's also not easy to virtually put down on the canvas every man you've faced in your career, particularly if you're talking about within 41 to 42 fights that every opponent has tasted the canvas. That is a remarkable feat within itself. And there should be now a special class for others following in the footsteps of the champion to try to match that feat. See if you can put down every man you've ever faced in your career in 40 fights, 40 plus fights. Magnificent feat. So, 89 TV is in the chat. He says, salute. What's going on with you, 89 TV? Nice to see you over here. I had this notification to start for 11 p.m., but there was no one else live at this moment when I went live. So I just claimed the spot and thought I'd do the stream a little bit earlier so I can go to bed earlier. That's all. So salute to everybody that's joined me out there and the 10 plus people they say we have in the viewing. Please smash the like button as you're out there. Can we even up the likes with the viewers? That would be wonderful. So, as we move forward, I had a hypothetical question to ask. Speaking of the heavyweights. And it's on the heels of something that I've noticed. I'm not the only one that has noticed this, but all of us have, and we need answers. And the question is, why are these heavyweights fighting guys outside the top 10 rankings, and they're ranked in the top 10, but they're not fighting each other in the top 10? What is going on with that? For an example, it has been announced that Dillian White will be joining the Andy Ruiz Jr., Anthony Joshua rematch card in the desert in Saudi. And White, who's ranked 7th pretty much in the world, he's in the top 10. He's taking on Marius Watch, and although I've seen Watch fight before, Watch is like 39 years old. He has 5 losses on his record. Been KO'd in 3 of those losses. 2 of them coming to Alexander Povetkin and Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Now that alone lets you know that this guy is really not in Dillian's league, you know. And I understand that he's on the fringes of rankings, somewhere around 40 or so. Really. I mean, Dillian is going to fight somebody who's so lowly ranked. What purpose does that serve? Honestly, can someone in the chat share with me what sense does that make? There are other fighters in the top 10 that Dillian could fight. And if they're ranked above him, fight those guys so you can boost your ranking up higher. But this is like unbelievable that this man would be allowed to dip way, 30 plus paces outside of where he is to fight an opponent. Now, part of that is his promoter and matchmaker. But where is the gumption of the fighter? Where is the initiative of the fighter to say, hey, man, I want to display my wares, but I want stiffer competition because I don't want to be a laughingstock. And people are expected to accept this and then listen to these falsehoods when he wants to claim how he's due for a title shot and things like that. Fighting who? Fighting what? It's ridiculous. Dark Truth has joined us. He says, peace, Stormy B-Man. Andrew Charles says, as Stormy B-Man, I don't usually get to catch your early live streams, so I'm glad to see you on late. Help fill the airwaves. There was no one out there at this time, and I wanted to do a stream for today. Interesting thing there, Dark Truth. This is a fight that's being promoted by Eddie Hearn in Matchroom. So quite naturally, it's probably a WBO or IBO or something like that because, you know, he's caught trouble with some of the other sanctioning bodies. So we'll see. You know, maybe they'll announce it on Fight Night. I didn't even look to see what he's fighting for because it's not like he's fighting for a position. This is like a stay busy fight to get him some activity. But it's nothing worth value when you talk about White because he's a cheater, and he's looking to have advantages over others and everything. He's like the Canelo of the heavyweights, you know, and Eddie Hearn's protecting him. And I think Eddie Hearn has put such a protective shield around Dillian White because AJ is so shaky, you know. One good shot to the jaw and AJ may, you know, decide he don't want to box anymore. Even though it's come out in recent reports that he's saying if he lost to Ruiz Jr. in this rematch, he's not going to retire. But after the first loss, didn't AJ speak several different things? I think he even spoke some of it in Chinese. He was so messed up and brains were scrambled all over the place. So it's no telling where he'll set himself if he were to lose this fight. But you could bet believe Eddie Hearn will have another iron in the fire before the end of the year, whether AJ sticks around or not. Drew Titan is in the building. He says, Bronx on deck. Salute to the chat. Why and how is White still working? Exactly, Drew Titan. And what's worse, Drew, if you're just joining us and didn't hear me say earlier, he's taking on a gentleman that's like so lowly ranked. He's like on the outskirts, he's near the top 50. The guy is like it ranked somewhere near around 40 or so. What is his name? Marius Walch, whatever his name is, W-A-C-H. You know, a stiff, another big stiff. And he's allowed to fight guys like this. He'll probably be allowed to use treated gloves or something like that. He'll probably, UCAD will probably let him come in, with some Steve Rogers super soldier serum coursing through his veins. This is what they do over there at Matchroom. I think they call it Matchroom because behind the room of what they work, they try to match the characters that they have signed to contract. They try to match them up as much as they can or overmatch them with their opponents. Oscar Rivas still, we haven't heard from the brother, but he should be complaining. Dillian White is a cheat. He's a cheat to the core. And they looking out for him. I think they took this fight to the desert because there's probably less ethic there as far as what the sport requires. So they're allowed to take that fight there. Because as money hungry as Eddie Hearn is and looking to put in the future wealth for his family, they could have easily had this rematch in the States where they would have made the best of money. They could have had it right in Vegas. They could have had it in Brooklyn. You understand? They could have had it in Texas Stadium. But he took it outside the U.S., far away from the U.S., so that they can do their dirt. And over there, who cares? And that's what they're doing. That's what they're on. But I'll say this going forward. If Andy Ruiz wins this fight, they will probably try to strip him of some of those titles that he has. He'll still be able to go on and fight Deontay Wilder as a champion, even if they take the belts. If he unifies with Deontay wins. Deontay is undisputed, regardless of if he doesn't have all the belts. Because stripping him doesn't mean he's not the champ. Not the way the nefarious games that the sanctioning bodies are playing today, where they'll award someone to a championship or create a championship belt just because they want to. So if they strip him, why don't we take the same notice of their actions as when they want us to take them when they create a false belt? We can call it a false strip. You're stripping somebody because you don't want the inevitable. Not because he wasn't worthy. Not because he cheated. Not because he wasn't capable of representing properly. You want to do what you want to do because you don't want the man to certify that he is the man across the board. But that's okay, because he's already let you know. If he fights for he who had the belts, once he does that and he wins, the belts won't mean a thing, because he'll have all of the infinity stones, whether you try to remove them or not. He's got the gauntlet. Drew Titan says, Ack Reacher's out there. He says, what's up, family? What's going on with you, Ack? Good to see you, bro. Drew Titan says, where's the outrage? Absolutely, Drew. Absolutely. Where is the outrage? Which is why we should stay on their necks and continue to have these conversations and expose to the casual that may not be aware of these nefarious, and I still use that term for them, nefarious acts, because they sit back in these think tanks and think of ways to keep separation in the sport. Separation and elevation. They elevate who they want and separate everyone else. That's poor ethics at the end of the day. Poor ethics. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens says, right? That sucker Oscar Rivas done signed with Matchroom. They probably bought him out, Reggie, if that is what he's done. If that's the move he has made, they've probably made him an offer at the price that he'd accept, and that's why he signed. But see, that's the whole thing. Ethics. Sometimes that money means everything to a person that's hungry, And when I say hungry, I ain't talking about hungry for a title shot, but literally in financial dire straits where they need help. And that's what these guys, these clowns, hang over fighters' heads, which is all the more reason why union and some type of medical care and things like that should be formed for these fighters, because a fighter shouldn't have to sign away his life because he's hungry. That's ridiculous. Andrew Towell says, casual fans, most of them don't care, probably don't even know. Yeah, but sometimes when you put, Andrew, when you put on the label the nutrition guide, what happens is all the information that you need to know is right there. It's up to you whether you read it or not. Right now, we don't have a nutrition guide for fighters. There's nothing whether you could go to and read, what's good for them, what's bad for them, what you can accept and receive, and what you want to leave on the plate. That doesn't exist at this time, which is why the conversation needs to be had. Because the more conversation you have, in the words of my brother Reggie Owens, it says conversation rules the nation. The more conversations that you have, the more awakening and eye-opening to what's disingenuous to the fighters and what could be profitable for the fighters to promote their well-being. Right now, it's all over the place. And of course, the powers that be, like sanctioning bodies and these horrible, poor ethic promoters and managers, they're not going to do anything to kickstart putting the fighters in a better place. They're benefiting off of this, just like a leech attached to your skin. He's sucking your blood. He's trying to live off of you. He ain't going to say, oops, I'm sorry, I was sucking your blood. He going to be on there till you burn him off. Huh? And that's what's happening in the sport. So a guy like Dillian White, who has not only cheated in the last match he had, he's also used unsanctioned gloves. They didn't reveal that he failed the drug test to the opponent or the opponent's camp. They didn't even let, everyone who was supposed to know about this know. They just allowed the event to take place. Thank goodness that Mr. Rivas didn't die. But since he's signed, if what Reggie says is true, since he's now signed with them, they've given him a price. So more than likely, he can eat for a little while now. But at the end of the day, because he sold himself, he's not going to be happy with that. Not at the end of the day. Dark Truth says, according to boxing scene rankings, White isn't even ranked anywhere else but the WBC. But didn't the WBC put a loose suspension on White? Which is probably why he's not fighting for WBC, Dark Truth. He's probably fighting for like the IBO or something. Believe it or not, that's probably what he's fighting for. Because that's the way that they get around things. And because they're having that fight way away from America or Mexico, where the WBC has a stronger grip on things, they're over in Saudi, man. They might invent a belt over there in Saudi by fight night. You never know. This is how these guys work, man. You just heard me say at the beginning of this broadcast, they create belts when they want to. This is what they do. And it's not fair. It's not ethical. And it's dirty. This is what they do. you know. But you can go and fight a guy that's damn near ranked 50 in the world, and you supposedly were in the top 10, and that's okay. I haven't watched a single down of football this year in the NFL, but whoever is the number one team, what if they could just pick who they wanted for the Super Bowl, and they picked the lowest of the low teams? This is what it's like in boxing. You up here, they're down there, and you want to fight them down there because they're down there. Not who's looking you eye to eye, but who's beneath you. Come on, man. This shit show has to stop. And we don't talk about it enough. We do talk about it. The entire community has something to say, but we should be more vigilant in this. Huh? They do this to us because they think they're just fans. What do they know? Well, some of us fans have attachments to people who are involved in the sport, whether they're trainers, whether they are, people who work in the camps, sparring partners, or professional fighters. We should have a voice too. And we do, which is why someone like myself is on this evening talking about it. And hopefully someone can pick this mantle up and take it further than I have. Because I don't claim to know everything, but I'm aware of some things. And he who is more aware should speak out and reveal that. Make people in the know. The internet can be a beautiful place if you use it properly. You don't have to, every time you open up your internet, you don't have to all the time be looking at Pornhub. You don't have to check into that all the time. You can check into one of the LDBC channels and hear what we're talking about, because a lot of times we talk about some good stuff when it comes down to boxing. But according to some channels, you might hear a little X-rated stuff too, so you might get 2 for 1. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So there you go. Moving on, I had another hypothetical question for you. Will Tyson Fury be ready to accept, because we've seen the cut that Otto Wallen put on him trying to get out of this date. First of all, the date that they've announced, I think it's on a weekday. So that probably more than likely won't fly. But he's been known to pull a disappearing act in the past. Even if it's his so-called self-inflicted falling off the wagon, with his so-called illnesses and his problems, which is really more than another way to say that he ain't got to do it if he don't want to. But that puts our champion in a predicament, because he'll hold up the champ's career if they're contractually obligated to fight each other in a rematch. This is why whenever it takes place, you got to hope for Deontay to just rid the division of this man. I almost called him something else. But that's important. Very important. And Dark Truth was laughing his ass off. Andrew Charles says, Wallen was so close to finishing Fury. If only he had just a little more in him. You know what, Andrew? If only the ref did what he was supposed to do and waved the fight off because of the cut. The man bled like a stuck pig all over the ring, all over the people who sat ringside, judges and everybody that was near that little table, the referee, it was a bloodbath, man. Dracula was sitting out in the stands rubbing his hands and smacking his teeth, Tyson Fury was bleeding so much. And you have seen these fighters bleed like that and the fight gets stopped. Maurice Hooker, what was that? The light heavyweight against John Pascal? Wasn't he bleeding pretty bad? They stopped the fight. You've seen fighters who are the opponents of these misfits who don't want to fight guys in their divisions and everything. And they cut those guys and they stopped the fight right away. I mean, if you do it one way, you do it the other way, man. I mean, right? Andrew Charles says, true. Dark Truth says, I agree. I can really see him weaseling out of the fight, at least at the February 22nd date. Yeah, man. They'll try to do it in a manner that will frustrate Wilder, you know. They'll say they can't make that date, but we can make this date. And that date may not necessarily be a happy date for Wilder. That's why he has to be very cool, calm, and collected in how he deals with these people. But he should get a junction or something that says, hey, if this guy doesn't face me by this time, all bets are off. But the guy is going to need time. I'm telling you, he's already had a relapse, okay? His behavior dictates that he's had a relapse. Being all over there in the WWF and everything, WWE, whatever it is, wrestling, fighting two tremendously soft touches, guys who he was really supposed to beat, and he struggled life and death with Valin. It's like it looked real bad for Fury. So he's trying to stretch things out, and he'll probably, check into rehab or something like that. And that'll really put things on ice, if he does that. But hell, we all know he's an addict anyway, right? Hell, he boasted about it. Binging on coke, I think is the word that he used. Binging. Now I binge on some snacks, some chips or something. You know what I'm saying? But this Mark is binging on coke. And I know how much I love my snacks, man. For me to say I binged on them, I binge watched some TV, some Marvel stuff, or, the Breaking Bad and stuff like that. TV shows. Come on, man. And he gonna try to hold up the champ's career? Get the hell out of here, man. J-Rock will return to the ring January 18th. Since capturing his world titles in May, when he upset Jarrett Hurd, Julian J-Rock Williams will defend the IBF and WBA titles that he won from Hurd in his hometown of Philadelphia, January 18th. And it will be a Fox PBC card main event. He'll be taking on Jason Rosario. Okay? Now, Mr. Rosario is supposed to be a heavy-handed puncher, okay? But he's got a record of 19-1 with 13 KOs, and his one loss is by KO. So, obviously, this is a soft touch for Mr. J-Rock. You know? And, you know, for a first title defense, I guess that should be okay, right? Because J-Rock, who hasn't fought since he defeated Hurd, is looking to make a little change. You know what I'm saying? And have one of those homecoming celebrations where he defends, you know, where he defends his title for the first time. And I think, you know, after the fight with Hurd that he has, since Hurd didn't want that rematch, he deserves to have a fight where he can make some money, put some money in his pocket. But after this, I think J-Rock need to get right back to work. Because you can't go out there and start fighting these soft touches. I think Mr. Jason Rosario is ranked around the top 30 somewhere. So he's not that highly touted himself. And we have to stay consistent in this when we talk about these things. Dark Truth says, right, you binge on snacks and TV shows, not hard drugs. I know, right? See, Dark Truth, that's what I'm talking about, man. When you hold people accountable, those were his words, not mine. So if he's out there binging on drugs, dude, you know, crackheads, you can't trust them, man. So how can we trust him going into a rematch with Wilder? Huh? He's a binger on hard stuff, man. And the thing is, that doesn't bode well, man, for a return bout against him. He's subject to behave any kind of way leading up to the promotion and any kind of way in the promotion on the day of. Huh? Shit. Mark Blake is out there. He says, peace. What's going on with you, Mark? So, hey, man. I'm telling you. The good thing about the J-Rock fight, January 18th, the co-main event will feature Chris Colbert. You know, Little B-Hop taking on former champion Jezreel Corrales for the interim WBA super featherweight title. And if any of you had a chance to witness, you know, Chris Colbert fights, that little brother is all right. You know, I love to see him fight. He you know, he's exciting. He's very skillful. He's a little guy. I've often remarked he reminds me of Pernell Whitaker. But yeah, that should be a nice card. You got J-Rock in the main event and Chris Colbert is fighting on the same card. So that should be good. But you know, J-Rock's fight against Jarrett Hurd was one of the best fights of the year. And still pretty high on my list of fight of the year because going in, what both men meant to the division and the sport. But it's well beyond time for, you know, J-Rock to get back in there, get busy again. Jarrett Hurd isn't even certain if he's going to continue to fight at 154. I wonder why. But there ain't nobody up at 160 he could beat either. So you might as well get your butt in shape, get your butt back in the gym, work on some defense, work on some boxing ability, and come on back and start over. You don't have to come back to J-Rock right now, but you need to get back in there with that division and work on some things. Stop being so damn lazy, Mr. Hurd. J-Rock is 29, so he's entering his prime, you know. And there are fights out there for him to make. You know, there are fights out there for him to have. Even the winner of the Tony Harrison Jermell Charlo fight, which is December 27th, something like that. A good card, because if these guys want to go for undisputed and get all the titles, that's what they should be looking to do, face each other. Rosario, Jason Rosario, who's fighting J-Rock, they said he was born in the Dominican Republic and he's now fighting out of Miami. He's 24 years old. And he has beaten some contenders and rising prospects, what they say, Jamonte Clark, Justin DeLoach, and Mark Anthony Hernandez, all of whom were either stopped or knocked down against Rosario. And then they said he recently won a decision over veteran contender Jorge Cota in April. J-Rock better be on his P's and Q's, because usually when these guys go to their hometowns and fight, you know, like a homecoming fight, like Jarrett Hurd did, you know, that, don't forget, that was his homecoming. And J-Rock took his belt. So he better be ready. You know, he better be ready for this. B-Hop is 13-0 with 5 KOs. But his last fight, when he fought Miguel Beltran Jr., I mean, it was a first round knockout where he reminded me of when Sweet Pea Whitaker knocked out, I think it was Juan Nazario. One punch knockout, and that's when Sweet Pea, you know, unified his division, because there was a unification match, and I think he won, became undisputed or something at lightweight. It was awesome. Colbert reminds me a lot of Sweet Pea. He has some ability. He may be the best fighter out of New York since Zab Judah. I think he has a lot going for himself. Tremendous upside. You know. B-Hop is excited about this. He knows that he's a co-main event, and he's looking to go after Corrales. You know, Corrales fought Ladarius Miller back in July, and he had a split decision defeat. And this is the right type of fight for Colbert. Even though he doesn't have a lot of fights under his belt, he has that same type of experience and ability that Devin Haney has, where he's on the cusp of something really exciting. So it will require him to take these steps up. You know, some of these guys who are a prodigy, you have to put them in the pool and let them swim. Put them out there in the ocean, rather. You can't keep protecting these guys. You know, can't keep protecting them. They're good fighters, but you have to put them in there and let them fight. Dark Truth says, hopefully by fall next year, we'll have this 154 division wrapped up and us knowing who the man is. That would be sweet, Dark Truth. It would be very sweet if we could get that. We have a lot of young talent out here that is just on the cusp of doing great things, but what's required is they have to face the opposition necessary to take the next step. Without taking the next step, we cannot just give guys something that they haven't earned. You know, we can't give them something that they haven't earned. It's just like, look at how Keith Thurman squandered a couple of years of his career by simply not fighting people. Because at around the same time, you had Earl Spence Jr. and you had Terrence Bud Crawford come up to the division, and he took a 2-year break, 2.5-year break, almost 3 years, with undetectable injuries. Basically held the belts hostage and set the sport back as far as his division because there was no activity on his behalf. With 2 title belts, dude, you got to get those belts up or put them on the line. You know what I mean? And Keith Thurman, now look at him. He lets an old 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao come in there and take whatever dignity he had last off the table. Now he's talking about he want a rematch. Now he's talking about he would like to get in there with somebody. Dude, you had plenty of time to do all of that. Get to the back of the line. There's other young guns out there and hungry up-and-coming talents who will gladly step over you. Because now you're that much older yourself, and there are other fighters who are fresh and ready. That's what happens when these guys don't match up with one another. And when you see them, you look toward like, wow, they're talent, right? But if they don't face each other, man, come on. Manny Pacquiao should have been done after the Jeff Corn fight. Should have been done. He didn't even want to rematch Jeff Corn, huh? Crawford comes in there and whoops Corn behind like it was nothing. He didn't get much credit for that. But Pacquiao didn't call out Crawford saying, hey, I want a rematch. I want the belt back, rather. I want to go after Crawford. Bud would have taken that fight. But he looked at Thurman as a weak link. And he was correct. 100%. Even Shaky Freddy was able to convince Pacquiao that that's a good fight for him. Because Thurman dropped off. You know, at the top of the division, he wasn't knocking guys out like he was against those guys who were the second-rate and third-rate fighters. So, you know, Shaky Freddy had no problem. We can get him. We think with your movement, the fact that you throw a high volume of punches, and Thurman is not really aggressive anymore, this could be easy pickings for you, Manny. And it was. A rematch should bring the same thing. But we don't want to see a rematch between him. We want to see him get in there with someone like Earl Spence, Bud Crawford, Sean Porter. Huh? Let's see him in there against the best. No more easy touches, man. Or get out the sport. Andrew Charles says, why are fighters not as active in this era of boxing as they were in the past? Because they're looking to protect their records, and they're making solid enough money with television deals that they can afford to not be as active. And then when they do choose to get active, they have the matchmakers and promoters dig up guys and dead bodies and zombies who shouldn't be facing them, but they should be facing other guys in the top of their classes, especially as champions. And it's too many damn title belts. So if you got a top 5 fighters and 4 of them got belts, there you go. They ain't gonna fight each other. The sanctioning bodies don't care to have unified champions that are dominant because they want those sanctioning fees, and fighters who are not dominant but they can market especially if you're of a certain ethnic background, then they can milk it for all it's worth. That's the name of the game, brother. The name of the game. But we can go over and over on this. But I'm not going to do that this evening. I thought I would just come out, talk to you guys a little bit about boxing before you have your Thanksgiving meal and before you invite me over for some too. But yeah, we'll catch up. I got the Friday night chop session this Friday. And sometime this Saturday, I'll have the In the Eye of the Storm with Trap House Boxing. But my usual time might be affected by this event that's going to go down with Blood Boxing. He's challenging, or someone's challenging Blood Boxing to a debate that is going to take place around 10 a.m. So that's usually the start time, 10 a.m. Central. I don't know if that's 10 a.m. Blood's time. If it's his time, that may make it 9 a.m. my time. But we'll see what's happening, because I think Blood is on the East Coast. But he's got this show going on that everybody should tune into, because it's going to be an on-air battle between him and another subject who's not a part of the LDBC. So I want to save some airspace to let him work out that problem. You understand? And everybody out here who supports Blood Boxing should get behind him on that. And we see what happens. But I'll try to put a reminder out for In the Eye of the Storm, because it'll just probably take place either after that or a little bit in the early afternoon. I hope I get word of it early enough where I can put the reminder out, so anyone that want to listen to Trap House Boxing on In the Eye of the Storm, they'll be available to do so. So this is what I'll be looking forward to do. Let's see here. Andrew Charles says, Stormy, I heard you mention you coach and train. Can you talk about that for just a couple of minutes? Well, I'm not working with anybody in the gym right now, Andrew. But yes, I have experience working with people in the gym, coaching and training them. It's where a lot of my experience and knowledge of the sport comes from. And I had a very experienced mentor, Eddie Davis, who has worked with numerous fighters. Going back to the early 90s, Eddie has worked with people. And one of his proteges was Tim Austin, the Cincinnati Kid, from Ohio. And some other fighters. He's worked out of Don King's camp. And a few of the local guys here before they made it out on the West Coast. He had guys like Derek Harmon, Montel Griffin, Fresno Kendo. These are guys I know personally and everything. But for me, it's not about name dropping or anything like that. It's like these are just the Chicago locals. I've been in the gym with Andrew Galata. I didn't work with Andrew Galata, but I was working in the Windy City gym training guys, and Andrew Galata was there with his crazy self. Just, local, a lot of local guys that have come and gone. Greg Muhammad, Donnell Nicholson, Vaughn Bean, a lot of guys here out of Chicago. So, but yeah, that's what I've done, Andrew Charles. Work with a few of the amateur guys here on the amateur circuit. Adrian Granados out of the Garfield Park was a very good young amateur fighter out of Chicago, and he turned pro, and you see what he's doing now. He's still got the same trainers that worked with him when he was an amateur. Only thing wrong with that young man is he didn't have enough pop on his punches, but he had the heart of a champion, Adrian Granados. So, but yeah, that's, you know, that's a little bit about me. I can share a little more in the future, but right now, with all due respect, Andrew, I'm going to get ready to shut the stream down so people can get their rest, go on and do other things, whatever's going on with you for the rest of the night. And Stormy going to hit the sack because he's a little bit tired. But I just wanted to come out and spend some time with you all. And I appreciate everybody who came out in the chat and those who were listening and peeping through the blinds and didn't hit the like button. I appreciate you all too. Maybe one day you'll decide to come on in. You just have to wipe your feet when you come in and leave your mess outside the door. That's all, you know. But that's all I have for you guys this evening. I appreciate you all. This is STORMYBMAN, and I'm going to sign on off. Have a great Thanksgiving Day. Peace. Shout out to the LDBC.